But do you remember I told you I never did a movie? He says, I remember. I say, well, and reading my mind, he says, I'll give you some instruction.
Hi, I'm Rob Word. Welcome to A Word on Westerns. I am so excited today because one of my best friends is here. Oh, he's going to be embarrassed if I say that, but it's true. Mr. Robert Forster. Give him a big hand, please. Oh, that was loud. Well, you've had quite the year, sir.
I've had a decent year, and Mike said that Nakia was a backdoor pilot. I didn't remember that until he said it.
Yes.
Linda Evans was in it?
Correct.
Oh.
And it was back when they had a 90-minute time period for movies. Yep. It ran 73 minutes. 90-minute time periods today, it's about a 30-minute movie. Yeah. But the ratings were so good on Nakia that it was spun off into a series.
Yes, it was the television version of
Billy Jack?
Billy Jack.
I think that was the problem with it, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was, because they never bought the rights to make it into a television series. And as soon as the show went on the air, it was sued by Tom Laughlin. And while we got a 13-show order, it was over in 13, because by then the lawsuit had killed him.
Well, it was such an unusual show at the time, and I think you look more like a Native American than Tom Laughlin.
Yeah. You know, I've been in a number of Westerns over especially the beginning of my career. But I was always the American Indian. And during that time there were less guys who had any experience, and so I got those jobs at the beginning. But I can tell you one thing. I had the feeling that I must deliver my best self to those roles. When I knew that I was representing somebody else, it gave me the incentive to find the best guy I could in myself and deliver that guy. So it was they were character building roles. The one I did with Gregory Peck.
The Stalking.
Yes, and one with a real good director who died early. Tom Grise. Tom Grise, Journey Through Rosebud, and others. But I did work with Linda Evans again in a television Western that was a full movie.
Standing Tall you're playing another Native American.
Yep.
And that, when you played characters like that, did you have a Native American coach to help?
In general, no. The best coach I had when I started doing Westerns was Dean Smith.
Yes.
Who is still one of the fastest guys in the world. Even, I'm sure he feels like he's one of the fastest guys in the world. And he was a real horseman, and he took me and showed me an awful lot of horse tricks and gave me the courage to, ride with abandon. He was a good guy, and that was the Gregory Peck Western,
The
Stalking Moon.
A wonderful film. Now with Nakia, because these days everything goes on location, but when Nakia was done in the early 70s, most series were still in the studios, on the sound stages, or just shot around locally, but Nakia was shot in New Mexico, which now is a big hubbub of shows. But what was it like being on location for that length of time in Nakia?
Oh, I learned what an adobe house was. We lived in an adobe house, and it was a modern house and all that, but it was great. I had my son come out from New York City, and the Wranglers got him a little horse to ride, and he learned some of the things that he couldn't have learned anywhere else from New York City. This business has been rich, has been good to me, given me all kinds of things that I never figured out when I was trying to get out of geometry class in 10th grade. it was,
So
you
that's
know.
why you got into acting, geometry?
No, I got out of high school, and my father always said, you're going to go to college, Bob. And so without knowing what it was, I eventually got out of college. But in my senior year, I spotted a girl on my first day of my senior year, and I followed her into the auditorium. They were doing a play, and I figured that's how I'm going to meet the girl. I auditioned for the play. It was Bye Bye Birdie. I had seen never seen the movie, but I had seen the trailer to the movie, and I knew it was about a guy with a gold suit who does a parody of Elvis Presley. I said, that's how I'm going to meet the girl. I auditioned for the guy with the gold suit. They put me in the chorus. I said, nah, forget it. I don't want to be in the chorus. And I said, stick, Bob, you'll meet the girl. I met the girl. I married the girl. We have 3 daughters. I wasn't kidding. And then some guy says to me, would you like to play the hero in a one-act Irish comedy? And I said, now you're talking. And from that point on, I said to myself, boy, I don't think I want to try to go to law school or something else. I went to my father, who was an elephant trainer on the Ringling Circus during the 1930s. The old man, he was what a good guy, what a tough guy, what a patient guy. It takes patience to train animals. He was so gentle. He was gentle with me as a kid. But I went to my father and I said, Dad, I don't think I want to be a lawyer. I think I want to be an actor. He didn't miss a beat. He said, I think you can do that, Bob. And so, merrily, I went to New York City without knowing there are this many of us and that many jobs. It is no mystery why it is so hard, but ignorance was my best friend, and I landed in New York, and somebody wanted to do a scene for a class, and we did it for an agent, and one thing led to another, and then I was under contract at 20th Century Fox.
Let's get back to Nakia for just a minute, because you worked with so many terrific people, even though it was only 13 episodes. The sheriff, you were the deputy in that series, but the sheriff was Arthur Kennedy.
Arthur Kennedy.
He's always been good.
Yep.
What was he like on?
He showed me how a real old-timer, no nonsense, know what you're doing guy could do. He didn't do anything much. He used that hat, and he hit the damn hat every once in a while. You knew he was mad about something. He had a wonderful growl and delivery, and I learned things about actors every step of the way. You say to yourself, how does a guy who really knows what he's doing do it? And he was one of them.
In that show also, I know you were a big fan of the Bowery Boys and the Dead End Kids. You had Gabe Dell.
We had Gabe Dell, yes. One time early in my career, I was sitting in the makeup chair. It was before dawn at Warner Brothers, and I looked in the mirror, and sitting next to me was Hunts Hall, one of my faves. God, I couldn't let him know enough about how important he was to me. You know, I grew up with with the Bowery Boys and Abbott Costello and cartoons, and I had a movie theater when I was growing up that changed the bill 3 times a week, 2 days, 2 days, and 3 days. And I saw more movies as a kid for 11 cents, or sometimes a quarter, whatever it was. My mother said, Bob, you're going to grow up to be an usher in a show. And
she'd be so proud.
She was. I said, listen, I tried my best, Ma.
And this was in Rochester.
This was in Rochester, New York, and that theater became a car wash. They tore out the front end and the back end, and they drove cars down to it. But I had a great early career when I was a kid. I could go to the movies when I was 6 or 7, maybe one of my cousins and me. You know, these were the old days when things were safe and people felt good about their kids going to the movies, which was not very far away, 150 yards, but it was up a street and over a street and up a street and over a street, and it wasn't very far, but you felt differently about things.
When you first came to Hollywood,
yes.
What were your expectations?
My expectations were always surpassed. I had no idea what was going on, what was going to happen next. But I came out as I just got married and drove out as a contract player. I had not yet received my first $245 a week paycheck. This was what I was going to get as soon as I arrived in Hollywood, and it was big money, as everybody remembers, 1966, I guess. And the first phone call, we took an apartment on Fountain Avenue. The phone was installed in 3 days, not like now, immediate, but 3 days. I waited the phone. The first phone call is from the agent. He said, "Do you know who John Huston is?" I said, "No, I don't." He says, "Well, he's a big guy in this business and he wants to meet you for Reflections in a Golden Eye." But I read it quick and I jumped on a plane. I got out of LA as quick as possible. I went to New York City. I met this John Huston. John Huston gave me the best piece of advice I have ever gotten about acting. I read the book, Reflections in a Golden Eye, short book. I get to New York City, I find this hotel on Madison Avenue where I'm going to meet this John Huston. It's a real bright, hot Saturday. I finally find the door, I walk in, and my eyes are adjusting to the dimness of the light inside the lobby of the hotel, and everywhere I look, everywhere, there's guys, they all look like me. This is a cattle call. I had never been in one, but I knew what the word was, cattle call. And I said, nah, I'm not gonna stay here. And I took a hike and I walked around and I talked myself back to going, and I said, "Bob, come on, the guy, you already read the thing, you came all this way." I went back, there were less guys. I put my name at the bottom of the list. There was always a list. Eventually my name is called, we're escorted up the elevator, we wait outside of a room, somebody is escorted out, I'm escorted in. I'm introduced to this tall, old guy. "What have you done? What have you done?" I said, "Look, I haven't done much. I did one Broadway play. I wasn't bad, but I don't make myself an actor." I said, "I never did a movie. I don't know how they're made. I don't know what the tricks are, but if you hire me, I will give you your money's worth." Yeah. He said, "Ray, come in here, Ray. I want you to meet an actor." In comes Ray Stark, a big producer. I shake hands with Ray Stark. I turn back to the tall old guy. He says, "You'll be hearing from us." I said, "Okay." That was the kiss off. When somebody says you'll be hearing from us, you never hear from anybody. I get on a plane. I go to Rochester. I stop off in Rochester to say hello to my father before coming back out to LA. I get off the plane. 2 hours after this meeting, my father says, "Quick, call your agents. They just made a deal." I didn't know that's how fast they operated. I got back to Los Angeles. The agents arranged a telephone call between me and this John Huston. I'm on the phone with Huston. I say, "Hey, look, I thank you very much for hiring me, and I appreciate it very much." I said, "But do you remember I told you I never did a movie?" He says, "I remember." I say, "Well, and reading my mind, he says, I'll give you some instruction." About a month later, he comes out to Los Angeles. I meet him over at Western Costume, over by where Paramount is. We go, I meet him right away. I said, "Hey, look, they sent me the script and you said you had some instructions for me. What are they?" And he says, "But not yet, Bobby." Maybe he's going to take me on a set. Maybe he's going to take me to lunch. I'm going to wait. And days go by and nobody calls, and days turn into weeks and nobody calls, and weeks turn into months and nobody calls, during which time Montgomery Clift dies and has to be replaced by Marlon Brando, and this takes some months. Finally, I get the call. I'm going to meet on Long Island for 10 days of shooting, then we're going to Rome, Italy for 12 weeks. Wow. I show up 3 days early. I go straight to Houston. I say, "Hey, look, you said you had some instructions for me. I've been reading the script all summer long. What are those instructions?" He says, "But not yet, Bobby." I don't know what he's waiting for. Now it's the night before we're going to start shooting. It's a long table. Everybody in the cast and crew, not Elizabeth Taylor, not Marlon Brando, but everybody else, Brian Keith and everybody else, and John Huston sitting right here, and I'm sitting right here, and all during dinner I figure he's going to lean over and toss me these pearls of wisdom. No, he does not. At the end of dinner, I lean to him. I say, "Hey, look, tomorrow morning we're going to start this thing. Don't you think now's the time to give me those instructions?" He says, Tomorrow morning, Bobby. Tomorrow morning finally comes. They put me in makeup, they put me in a wardrobe, they stick me in a car, they drive to the set. The car comes to a stop, I get the door open, I walk out, and from behind I hear Huston say, "Now's the time, Bobby." "Shoot," I say, "I'm all ears." He says, "Go take a look through the camera." I walk over to the camera, the cameraman steps aside, I look through the lens, I turn back to Huston. He says, "You see those? Those are the frame lines." I look again, I say, "You mean that line that shows the cameraman what the audience sees?" He says, "Those are the frame lines. Now ask yourself this. What needs to be there?" He gave me the best piece of advice I could have gotten. He didn't tell me all the things I was going to have to figure out. He didn't tell me that I was going to have to do the detective work so that I could understand what this little fraction. Everybody here knows how movies are shot. They're shot in shots. You don't shoot a movie, you shoot a number of shots in a day, a small number of shots in a day. But you got to figure out what the writer needed you to do in this particular fraction. And that's not the end of it. The director may need you to make an entrance or an exit or move some props around or say something. The director needs something from you. He's giving you a route for the shot. The one who set the lights wants you to be in them. The one listening for the words got to hear them correctly, otherwise at the end of the shot somebody says, "No good for sound, start again." If you do something too big for the shot you're in, somebody behind the lens says, "No good for composition, start again." If you put the cup in the wrong spot, somebody says, "No good for continuity, start again." You owe something to everybody on that set. Everybody is your boss. Everybody is somebody that needs something from you, and that's not the end of it. The other actor may have to do this emotionally in a scene. It's your job to build him a little ramp so that he can do this emotionally in a scene. And for the one who's cutting this picture together, that you want to know how the roller coaster track of this movie goes so that you can contribute to the ride and know where the downs and the ups are. And going around the curves, if you're not believable, the audience won't be with you at the end of the ride. You owe them something too. And for the person who hired you, you're expected to bring this picture in on time. Get those shots on a daily basis. And understand how movie making is so that you can help get your job done. It sounds like a hard job, and everybody in here knows that every actor they've ever known can do that 8 days a week. It is not that hard to create an action which advantages more than just yourself. And I remind people, and my children especially, and myself especially, you can create better actions whenever you want to, Bob. All you got to do is try. Keep the other guy's needs and interests in mind and do the best you can. That gives you a big advantage in life.
Hi, I'm Rob Word. Thanks for watching A Word on Westerns. Each week we post a new episode, and all you have to do is subscribe right here. Click on this, you won't miss a one.